Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome back to WOR Crossplay. Crossplay, what am I on about? We're not on console. PC Tier 2 for this evening's action. We are here at Silverstone, the most historic venue in Formula One. And of course, alongside me, it's not Joseph, it's not Corey, it's the wonderful Nathan Richards. How are you on this Monday evening, Nathan?
I'm very well, thank you. Max only got brought in last minute, but it's my home Grand Prix, so I couldn't say no to commentating here tonight. And of course, we have got a special guest. Some people call him Leroy Brown, but we'll call him Booker T.
Yes, we've got Booker T joining us this evening in the race. Of course, if you're up to date, or what should I say, up to date, more into your more nostalgic wrestling, should I say, you'll know who Booker T is. But the drivers are just heading into qualifying, so we'll quickly switch over to the track here at Silverstone this evening. 5.891 kilometers or 3.660 miles, 18 turns with 10 to the right and 8 to the left. Of course, 2 DRS zones down the hangar and Wellington Straights. And of course, the birthplace of Formula One, where the first race all the way back in 1950 was held. And it should be a very interesting evening. I think here, Nathan, DRS trains are going to be a huge factor tonight.
Yeah, they certainly are. It's quite often on this game, especially at Silverstone, we see cars pick quite early in the race and then just save their tyres all the way to the end. So that's probably what we're going to see here this evening. Hence why, unless you're going for a mega undercut and taking that risk, you need to get a good qualifying lap in because it's so hard to make your way through the field. So it's certainly going to be a challenge for our drivers, as many of them are already heading out onto track. In fact, everybody is out on the circuit already, and the first one that will be looking to start tonight will be one of the kick savers. It will be Lucas Baizner, who currently sits P5 in the standings and very consistent. Hasn't taken a podium, but it still sits P5, so a very good job so far by the test driver.
Yes, certainly a good season for him, all things considered. Of course, hasn't really been at the top of PC Tier 2 for a long old while, usually in the likes of Tier 4 and Tier 3. So he's had a very good season for his standards. And we're about to go into qualifying action. And actually in the background there's some contact between Ryan Bakar and one of the Aston Martins. Not sure who that was. Could have been Gabor. No, it wasn't Gabor. It's going to be Tamas Kokeni who made that contact there with Ryan Bakar. But drama already, and surprisingly there as well, Nathan. No 5-place grid penalty to either driver. So no one really being affected other than Bakar not being able to get the run on the board.
Yeah, I suppose it's a good thing that we didn't get a penalty, because I do not want to be having a restart in between now and the race. I want to get straight into things after this qualifying session has concluded. But we'll have a look here at JSD, of course, a two-time champion here in PC Tier 2. Unfortunately, he's never been given that chance to go up into Tier 1, so he's back here again this season and currently sits P9 in the standings. Has taken a podium as well back in Belgium, so doing a decent job this season. Just a few poor results with a DNF and a couple of no-point finishes for JSD, so hopefully he can try and muster something up this evening, heading into Copse Corner. Very infamous if you're driving in a Red Bull, that's safe to say. And then, of course, down into the famous Maggots and Beckett section. Very easy to make a mistake through here, but Max, it's a section of the circuit where if you can hook everything up correctly, you can gain so much time through there, and it can be really, really crucial for you on a qualifying lap.
It certainly can. You can find heaps of time at Maggots, Beckett and Chapel. All it takes is just drifting out a little bit offline and you lose 2 to 3 tenths of a second, especially at Chapel. You're going to have Baizner setting the benchmark, but we'll stay on board of SD as he now heads through the Vale chicane. So the kick Sauber 25-0. Not beaten by Kokeni, just falls a tenth short. Here comes SD to the line. Can he displace the kick Sauber? No. 100th of a second separate those two drivers. Only Mo, I think we have found out, was Matthias van Erven, goes into fourth. Ryan Modler, of course, championship promotions as well here, Nathan. And if Modler finishes lower than 5th and Rapassa wins, Rapassa will be the champion.
Indeed, so lots of work for Modler to do, but I don't think the championship for him is any sort of possibility or even thought in his own head. But what a lap there from Tom Roberts, a 24.893 to kick things off here in this session. And next to cross the line will be Booker T in the Ferrari. Goes 14th fastest, slowest of the lot so far. Then we have a few more cars left to cross the line. Valentine Brufair, of course, ex-Williams driver, goes second fastest. And Larry Sulkey goes up into the top 3, matching the time there of Valentine Brufair. So a very, very close qualifying so far here this evening, as Ryan Bakar, of course, got damage earlier on. Back out on the circuit now in 18th place, looking to try and get a lap time on the board. But both McLarens as well, Max, still without a lap here.
Yeah, we saw them do this last time out in Baku, Lut and Gottschalk. They just went a little bit out of sync with everybody else, and also with that had a very disappointing time in Baku, both having a double DNF, and they've just not really been able to get this season going. Lut with only 14 points down at 16th in the standings, and Gottschalk only with 10 points down in 20th in the standings. But of course, they're going to try and make amends here at Silverstone, and of course, now for Ryan Bakar, he's going to be a driver out of sync as well here, Nathan, and that could have a big effect over the terms of this qualifying session, because you're not going to have the slipstream potentially from a car in front, and also crucially it just makes things a little bit more tense and a little bit more tight for timings when it comes to getting that final run in, and you could potentially see yourself not even get to the line in time to get that final lap underway.
Yeah, we've seen that happen in the past, and of course on this game you're not really allowed to go and get a slipstream off of the cars, so if you're leaving it quite late and all the cars are bunched up together, sometimes that can put you into a situation where you can get slipstream, and of course on some occasions that can lead to a penalty if it does give you a lasting advantage. But Ryan Bakar now heading in towards Stowe Corner. We'll see what he can do in the Kick Sabre. Of course, currently sits P24 in the standings, only 1 point to his name. That was a P10 back in round 4, so he's got to try and get some points on the board here to end off this season. 4 rounds to go, of course, as this is round 7 of the championship. Up to the line, goes 5th fastest. A nice lap there for Ryan Bakar, as we see both of our McLarens out on the circuit, and also the second Kick Sabre of Lucas Baisner out on track as well. Of course, Baisner, as I said earlier on, yet to find a podium here this season, so we'll definitely be looking to try and get something sorted here tonight.
Yes, he certainly would love to get on to the podium. Will Baisner, of course, the highest driver in the standings without a podium, of course, as we mentioned, in that 5th place. Now be looking to try and finally see himself onto the rosters, but it does seem that we have Keedan Lutt going to be the first one of those 3, as everybody else now trundles out of pit lane. The herd now exits as we now see Keedan Lutt start his lap in the McLaren. I mean, this has been a very disappointing season so far from Keedan Lutt. The best finish of 4th, and other than that, 2 10th place finishes to his name. It's just never really got going, has it, for the McLaren driver? Same with Gottschalk as well. I did mention that they're on such small points. But even a podium, or outscoring a few drivers by a couple points to finishing in the top 5, Keedan Lutt could see himself shoot up into the top 10, but due to how close these standings are and how dominated it's been from a fair few drivers like your Modler, like your Dowds and Rapassa as well, where they've took the whole of points and everybody else has just been fighting for scraps.
Yeah, definitely, and I've got to say it's a surprise to see Keedan Lutt so far down in the standings, considering last season I think he finished 4th or something, had a really good season in the Haas last time out, but this season just hasn't got going, and that is a big surprise. I thought, even before coming here tonight, when I looked at the standings, I thought I would have seen his name a lot higher than P16, so hopefully he can get something, some good points on the board here this evening, as he's now just heading his way in towards Stowe Corner. We'll have to see what Keedan Lutt can do, making his way through. Nice so far, and then of course into the Val Chicane and then Club Corner to end off this lap. Decent so far, and I can see a little bit of rain on my screen here, so this could be the final laps of qualifying. What can Keedan Lutt do? Only goes 18th, and there is rain on circuit here, Max.
Yes, there certainly is. I think I can just see some slowly falling down onto the cars. You can see it there, Daniel Gottschalk. Some rain is now tumbling here in Silverstone, and for Daniel, it's only last place. He stays at the bottom of the times at 25.4. Extremely disappointing there from him as Lucas Baisner comes into pit lane. Even though it's very light, has it already affected the grip that these cars do have? Of course, Valentine Brufa's now just started his lap, so he's his teammate Diego Zorzo now coming through. So and he's elected to come into pit lane. He's not improving on his lap time either. Then we have Wojtek Steg now also darting into pit lane. It seems nobody is going to be able to find an improvement here unless they can try do something about it. Of course, Steg retiring, the rain making the circuit too slippery. Kokeni invalidated, he was down on his lap time anyway, and I think we're going to see a herd of drivers now come into pit lane, and crucially in championship permutations and also for the remainder of this session, as Shontos to the line doesn't improve. Tom Roberts takes pole position, but Modler out-qualifies Rapasa by a decent chunk. It's a P7 to a P12 from the Ferrari to the Red Bull, and we could see that championship battle live to see another day.
We certainly could do, as I think that is definitely qualifying over. Big shame there for Keaton and Daniel, who went out very late in this session to get lap times on the board, and unfortunately didn't have much time to go out and get another lap on the board. So those two will be starting 18th and 20th for McLaren. And yes, a big shame there for Luca Rapasa in 12th place, of course. With a 61-point lead, it's, you know, not really that worrying with 4 rounds to go. But of course, any mistakes from him now and possibly a podium here for Ryan could certainly put Luca onto a little bit of pressure, especially if he ends up missing a race or two before the end of the season. So once everybody goes back into the pit lane, we should get everybody retired, and then we should head on to the main Grand Prix. And I don't think I've seen anybody with a penalty, so I think it should be straight into the race in action.
I think it certainly should be, as we just, of course, wait for Gabor, Matthias Van Erven and Tamas Kokeni now all get into the pits and wait for them to retire. And of course, you never know what could happen in the race either here. Rain could certainly be on the cards, and another big factor as well is with that DRS train, track limits then become an even bigger factor, especially around Silverstone, where it's so easy just to either run a little bit too far wide or just chop off an apex ever so slightly here, Nathan. And if it does rain, it makes that risk a little bit higher. So this race is going to be all about consistency and, of course, keeping it on the black stuff, which these drivers know all too well. But it's very easy, especially in dirty air, just to potentially slide off the track slightly.
It certainly is. So if we do get any rain in the race, that will certainly make things very interesting, as we do see everybody now heading back into the pit lane. I presume all of them will be clicking that retire button, and then we can get our way into the Grand Prix. Of course, 26 laps around this circuit, and in a normal race, you know, on dry conditions, you're looking at a medium hard, pitting rather early, just save your tyres to the end. But if wet weather's also in the equation, things do get thrown out of the window. So it will be interesting seeing what our drivers do here tonight, as we just have 2 Williams cars will probably retire in a very short moment, and then we can head our way through to conclude this qualifying session. But what a job by Tom Roberts. Had 1 lap to do it, and he certainly did well. Nearly, I think, 20 thousandths ahead of Valentin Bruffer in 2nd place.
Yeah, brilliant stuff there from Tom Roberts. It was an extremely nice lap from the Alpine, and he was able to see himself to the top. And also as well for Valentini, managed to just get that lap in before Lari Tulki. They're level in terms of timing. Same as well with Ryan Modler and Diego Zorzo, as their times came in thick and fast. Look how close it could have been at this end stage of qualifying if we did get it, especially in that mid-pack. From Rapasa up to Modler, less than a tenth. Well, less than half a tenth would have seen you promoted up into that 7th place if you're in the shoes of Rapasa. So it really is just super close throughout this field. But while we wait for these drivers to retire, of Van Erven and Pepe Marti, might as well take you through your drivers' standings. And of course, look at that gap. Rapasa has 61 points back to Ryan Modler, and it's just been the sheer consistency from the Dutchman which has given him this lead, hasn't it, Nathan?
Yeah, certainly, just absolute dominance. But then again, I suppose it's not really a surprise to see Luca Rapasa with such a gap to everybody else. I mean, it's a little bit unfortunate that I think the grid this season isn't as competitive as it has been in the past, and there's a few drivers that, you know, the likes of Cameron Dowds and Gabor, who unfortunately haven't been here every race this season, it does make things a little bit dull because then Luca can just run away with it and, you know, take a nice easy championship. I think, you know, in any situation where you've got 4 races to go and you lead by 61 points, it takes some interesting mistakes to end up losing that. So I think Luca should be fine in the lead with 119 points, but I mean, I don't think we've seen many drivers score that many points in a season anyway.
No, I don't think we have. It's just been sheer domination from Rapasso. Of course, 100% podium streak so far in the first 6 rounds. Lowest finish of 3rd, and that was only once in, of course, Monaco. And it just shows how strong he really is. Of course, yes, as you mentioned, he's not had the likes of Dowd and Santos constantly there fighting him for that championship. Because, I mean, before Baku, last time out, it was still 50 points. And it was a huge swing in the championship with Dowd not attending. So it was just absolutely insane what he can do throughout the season. And I think for Rapasso now, his mind may shift off the championship. And he may just now be focusing on trying to keep this 100% podium streak to the end of the season, because he'll be the first driver to ever do it, I think, in any tier, to actually be on the podium every single race from round 1 all the way to round 10.
I think Halliday was close in one of the seasons previously. I think it was Shanghai Day. A couple of seasons ago, he was very close to it, but I don't think he did get a 100% podium streak. But yeah, that would be brilliant. For Luca past that, definitely. And then, of course, you look further down the standings, things are quite close. I mean, P7 back to P17 is only 12 points. So, you know, there's still lots to play for in that low part of the standings. Not that many drivers care, but, you know, some of them do, especially if they're, you know, got some personal rivalries with other drivers. So, I think apart from that, the drivers are more keen on just seeing what their pace is, you know, going into a race. And possibly some of them are going to be doing a little bit more experimenting, heading into new seasons. So, of course, you know, there will be probably 2 more seasons on this game, I reckon. You know, if there's a few tracks that they struggle at, doing a little bit of practice here really helps them for the future.
It certainly does, and I think now, especially as you mentioned, those drivers further down the order, it's all just about trying to finish this season on a high. Try get some big momentum heading into next season, and just regrouping, and as you mentioned, practice those tracks that you may not be quite strong at. Van Erven and Pepe Marti are out on the circuit. They're on the soft tyres though, so it's not really a proper accurate run. They're just somewhat drifting around the circuit at the moment, but I mean, yeah, that's so close throughout the bottom of the field, and Tom Roberts is in that battle for 7th place in the standings. He could potentially jump in front of Tamas Kokeni as well in 6th. And Basner too. So from 5th downwards, especially with where Roberts is, he could see himself, if he does win tonight, or shoot all the way up into that top 5 and then be game on potentially for a top 3 finish come the end of the season.
Yeah, potentially. You know, there's lots of things that can still happen in this championship. As well, our final 2 are still going around the track. I presume next time out they'll be done and dusted and we can head our way into the race. I saw in the Tier 2 chat, apparently they are expecting rain in the race, but I don't think so, because everybody else has said it's going to be fully dry. So, yes, I'm not too sure what's going on there. But what does Matthias van Erven do? A 32.3, but he's on 35 laps of fuel, so he's going to be slightly off the pace.
He's doing a race run, it seems, is Van Erven, with only a few left to go. We'll quickly go aboard and let you guys see some on-track action from both Pepe Marti and Van Erven. And actually, I mentioned that Zorzo, Modler, and Bruffer and Tulki are matched on lap times. There's nothing separating the 2 Williams drivers either. So if you want a team partnership to be very closely matched, Williams is where you look. Look at that. 25-1-3-2, 25-1-3-2, and that was in their only laps of the session. So, yeah, very evenly matched teammates there.
Yes, very, and they've got to hope that they can try and work their way up the field nice and quickly as well, because they have got lots of competitive drivers ahead of them, and, you know, the same goes for quite a few competitive drivers behind them as well. And, of course, once these 2 do cross the line next time around, we will have, of course, the race getting underway, and then we'll see who can look for the win this evening, because Tom Roberts, very good job in qualifying, but then Bruffair, Tulki, Marquardt, Bakar, they're not that far behind. They're all within a 10th of Tom Roberts, and then of course you have another gaggle of cars from Ryan Modler down to JSD. They're only separated by around 20 thousandths of a second, so there's lots of very, very minute gaps here between our drivers. So I think, without a doubt, we're going to have a very good race, and strategy will be absolutely key this evening.
Yeah, it certainly will be. I just mean, look at that. Down to 17th place. It's just under 0.3 of a second. That is absolutely insane consistency throughout the whole field, and it just shows how evenly matched they can be in these situations. So, yeah, it was a really important and very crucial first lap in qualifying, and Tom Roberts was able to deliver under that pressure. So, a very well-deserved pole position for him, as we now see Matthias van Erven finally go into his pit box, and that should be the end of this session in about 3, 2, 1. No, I'm not timed that right. It'll be a couple more seconds after that. There we go. And you can see here are the full standings. It's Tom Roberts who takes pole position, the Brits on home soil. As then you see Valentin Breffer and Tulki second and third, equal times there. Marquardt fourth, Bakar fifth, Santos sixth, Modler, Zorzo, Basner, Vasso round out your top 10. And we have SD Championship leader Luca Rapassa with a disappointing qualifying 12th. Kokeni, Van Erven, Marty, Steg, Grob, Lutz, Booker T, and Daniel Gottschalk round out your field. But a few surprises in there with Tom Roberts getting pole, but also Ryan Bakar starting in 5th place. A very solid qualifying from the Kick Sauber there.
Definitely a solid qualifying indeed. And, well, there's a lot of work for Booker T to do from 19th, isn't there? I was expecting him to be a little bit higher. I was hoping so. But no, unfortunately, Leroy Brown down in 19th place has been here like every season, I swear. Always in Tier 2. I don't think he's always Tier 2 pace, but he's always here, always having fun. And at least he turns up every week. So, of course, great job there by Leroy Brown. And, of course, changing his name to Booker T. I'm not sure what the meaning is behind it, but I'm sure one day we'll find out.
Yeah, if someone in the chat knows, please let us know why he's changed his name to Booker T. But I mean, if anything about the comebacks in the Royal Rumbles and stuff, you never know. We could see him come back throughout the field and win here this evening. You never know. So yeah,
the entrance can get ready for if he wins the race.
Is it copyrighted? Because if not, we could do that.
Of course it is.
Well, you never know. He could make that comeback. Because actually, we are going to get underway quite quickly in this one. So the 5 red light sequence is on now. It's Roberts on pole from Breffer. And we're underway here in Silverstone. It's a good start from the Alpine. The Mercedes just lagging back ever so slightly. He's going to come under pressure here from Lari Tulki as they head through turns 1 and 2. And it seems the Mercedes has just got the launch that he needed. And just now looking to the inside of Tom Roberts as we head up into the loop. Some contact between the Haas and the Mercedes now. As you can see, Tulki just pushing the Mercedes as far wide as he can through the loop now into Aintree. Of course, no DRS for this opening lap, so it will all be down to slipstream and pure performance heading down into Brooklands corner. Yellow flag in the background, that's for Tamás Kokeni and Wojtek Steg, but these two still squabbling over that second place, inseparable in qualifying, inseparable in this opening lap so far, but a little slide there from Tulki now allows Ryan Bakar to potentially get that jump he needs on the Haas driver as we head up into Copse corner. Is he going to try and get past Breffer as well? No, he will not. It's 3 cars out wide there. It's Modler, Santos and Zorzo all off there at Copse corner. I think there's rain already as well.
Well, a few drivers there making a mistake on the opening lap in towards turn 9, too wide. Does not work there well at all, and unfortunately 3 cars went wide due to that one. As we now head back down towards Stowe corner, this is for the first time in this race as they all make their way through. And of course, a very good start for Ryan Bakar up to P3, was P5, I think, at the start of this one, as we have got a pit stop already. That is going to be, not sure who that was. Is it Gabor Chantos? Always retired from the race. Gabor not happy with what happened at Copse, I believe, and has decided to call it quits already.
I don't know if he got any damage from that potentially, but he just shot straight down the pit lane. And unfortunately there for Gabor Chantos, His race has ended early as we see a move there from Luca Rapassa on JSD. Of course, the championship can be won today, so he'll need to try do an expert drive through the field if he wants to do that. And Wojtek Steg as well, his race has ended early after that contact with Tamas Kokeni, and he sees himself retire as well. So we also see a move there from Stephen Vasso onto Lucas Basner into Brooklyn's not going to be able to do anything just yet, but it's all about this run out of love field. If he can get it nicely out of here, he could certainly poke his nose to the inside of Cop's corner.
Certainly could. Let's see what Stephen Vasso can do, but I think opts just to sit back in towards Cops and stays in P9 for now. Of course, Luca Rapassa charging up the field in 10th now after starting P12. He's looking to close in on the back of Stephen Vasso very, very quickly, and following him will be JSD on a set of the soft tyres in this race, going for something a little bit different here at the start of this one as we head back down towards Stowe Corner. Let's see if anybody thinks about making a move, because we can see there Keaton Luck closing into the back of JSD. Does go to the inside of the V-Carb, and Jay pretty much lets him through. And into 11th place goes Keaton Lutt, and further back Pepe Marti looking to make a move ahead of Ryan Grob, as Ryan Grob taps the back of JSD, then shuffles back onto Pepe Marti, who slots back into 14th place, and there Daniel Gottschalk could have an opportunity to move up into 14th himself.
He certainly could, as we also see just a little bit further up as Stephen Vasso is all over the back of Lucas Bates. They're going to go for that move into finish. A little bit of contact made between the pair as Basner will hold this one on the inside line of the loop, but it'll be a better run from the Kick Sauber as JSD cuts straight across the complex there. Do not know what has just happened to the V-Carb, as here comes Luca Rapassa as well on both Basner and Vasso. Is he going to be able to get past the Alpine and make it 2 for 1? No, he's just going to have to sit behind for now, but beautiful use of the DRS there from the Dutchman to be able to get past the Kick Sauber. And then, of course, Stephen Vasso teeing up that move perfectly to move himself up into that 8th place, but will need to try and hunt down Ryan Modler in front to see if he can get by. And Rapassa, who started 12th, and Modler started 7th, they're nearly neck and neck on the road already.
Indeed, and with the gap being 61 points currently, I believe it needs to be 78 points going into the next round. Do you take fastest lap here? Will I take a point for fastest lap?
I don't think so. So no, I don't think there is a point for fastest lap. So
well, if
it would
not,
be 75, wouldn't it? If
it would be. Yeah, it would be 75 points that he needs. So he needs to extend the gap by 14 points in this race, and that would be possible if he could be in the top 3. But being in 9th, he's got no chance of doing that whatsoever. But I think if it doesn't get decided tonight, it's most likely going to get decided next week, unless it's a big mistake made by Rapassa, or possibly ends up with a DNF, or maybe he doesn't turn up, we don't know. But things should be decided either tonight or the next time out in Italy. Is it Monza or Imola for round number 8?
I think it is Imola.
That'll be interesting then.
Number 8, it certainly should. And what Rapassa, as you mentioned, can really do is just tee himself up for for next week. This can just be it's Emilia Romagna, so we do head to Imola, but he can just tee himself up for Imola by just potentially outscoring Modler by even just a couple points or even a position, and just really give him that one hand on the trophy. I mean, if he doesn't get it at Imola, he surely got it at Japan, so it will need a huge amount of misfortune to go the Red Bull's way, but he certainly can give himself the tee shot to potentially seal this title next week in Imola.
Certainly, as we do look a little bit further back, and Keaton Luck catching up quickly on the back of Lucas Basner. We'll be looking to try and get a top 10 finish here this evening, because had 3 of them so far this season. 2 of them being a 10th and 1 of them being a P4. So another top 10 finish would be great for Keaton Luck here this evening as he makes his way through in towards Stowe, but does run a tad wide heading through there, and will cost him a little bit of time heading down in towards the Val Chicane. And then, of course, further ahead, it's still the status quo for our top 3 since around lap 2. Tom Roberts, Valentin Bruffaert, and then Ryan Bacart, the top 3. And then, of course, Larry Torquay and Joel Marquardt are ending off the top 5 as things currently stand. And then Luca Rapassa down in 9th, still trying to get ahead of Stephen Vasso. But Vasso, I've got to say, holding his own, doing a great job here so far. I'm sure used to race down in Tier 3 or Tier 4 last season. So to be called up to Tier 2 and be in the top 10, that surely will help him with his confidence of pushing forward for future seasons.
It certainly would. It's been a really nice drive so far from the Ukrainian, as we now see him potentially put that threat to Ryan Modler. He's in the championship predicament sandwich at the moment. Of course, Modler second and Rapassa, of course, leading the way in the standings. But he's done really well so far. He's got some excellent pace so far in that Alpine. Same with Ryan Bakar as well, who's currently lying in third. Your biggest gainers in this opening stages of the race are Keedan Lutt and Daniel Gottschalk, both for the McLaren outfit. So an upturn in fortunes from Baku, followed by Ryan Grob up 5 as well. Your biggest losers, of course, is Tamas Kokeni after that contact with, of course, Wojtek Steg, and also JSD down 6 after straight lining pretty much the complex of corners as the two Williams drivers now swap places, and Matthias van Erven gets past Pepe Marti. And it's now really just where we see that DRS train come into effect as Kokeni gets past JSD in the background. It's now that DRS train, and these drivers are settling into a rhythm where they just can't really seem to find a way past one another because they're all just so evenly matched through the corners and down the straights.
Yeah, certainly. And, you know, like we said before, we should see them pitting around lap 8 at first, and then it could go up to around lap 11, lap 12 maximum before we see our drivers all in the pit lane. So, of course, if you go for that undercut, it can work heavily around this circuit. I was watching the Tier 4 stream earlier on, and the undercut really worked for some of our drivers. So, of course, here this evening as well, drivers will be keeping their mind on strategy, and especially about going for that undercut and pitting a lap or two earlier as we continue our way on. Of course, lap 6 of 26, 20 laps to go in this Grand Prix, and Tom Roberts still comfortable out in the front. And then, of course, Bruffair in second and Bakar in third. And then looking further back as well, and the gaps are starting to slightly increase. As you can see there, Keedan looked backed off from Lucas Baisner. Rapassa as well has backed off a little bit from Steven Vasso. So they're just trying to get to the end of the first stint, really, before battles really start to happen.
Yeah, they certainly are, and you can see now that everybody's around about half a second away from one another. No one getting really close enough to try even a late lunge to the inside line, and it really is just focus on that rhythm, save your tyres, save the battery, and just focus on that later stage of the stint, because if you're going for that undercut, you'll need the battery, and you could potentially still go for some moves just before you come into pit lane, and maybe catch some other drivers napping, as we see JSD come into pit lane off that soft compounded tyre. Quite a rogue strategy call there from the V-Carb, you could say, Nathan. I think he mainly was probably preying on either an early safety car or potentially some rain on the horizons.
Yeah, possibly. That was a bit of a risk there for JSD, and his tyres should get to the end, but they will definitely struggle from lap 7. So, yeah, definitely a big risk here by JSD, but sometimes, you know, it is always worth going for that risk and trying something a little bit different, as very wide there from Valentin Bruffair, nearly losing that DRS to Tom Roberts for a moment as we head out of Woodcut and back down towards Copse Corner once again in this race. And looking further down there, Luca Rapassa still looking to catch up onto the back of Steven Vasso. Has put his foot down a little bit more now, has Rapassa. So looking to possibly jump up into 8th place and then, of course, get ahead of Ryan Modler. That's his main task here this evening. If he wants to try and take that championship nice and early, and with 3 rounds to go, that would be brilliant for Rapassa. It means he can either just keep racing or possibly, you know, one of things could just not bother turning up for the rest of the season and have a break, or could also turn up and possibly go for some risks and try different strategies and see what can work. Maybe he's got that. He's going to have that to play with his hands soon.
Yeah, he certainly is. Of course, if he wins it, he's got 3 rounds to do that. But if he, of course, has to wait till Imola, that means 2 rounds just to really test himself. You never know. He could just do last to question marks for the final 2 rounds. Really try and challenge himself and see where he can get up to. Especially at Abu Dhabi, a circuit where you can get some overtaking done, but could be something like we see here as well in Silverstone with this DRS train. Bit like a peloton and a high-speed chess game at the moment. Drivers going to be wanting to just maybe use their battery in different areas, try and use it as a different strategy and a different metric compared to the drivers around them. And it can now really mean that the likes of Rapassa can get somewhat stagnated throughout this field. Of course, same with Steven Vasso as well, where everyone's trying to do something different that in the end they do the same thing, trying to use the battery in a different way. So it is all about when you lean on that tyre as well. And do you start pushing now, knowing the pit window's near?
Yeah, definitely. They've all got to start working out when they want to pit. And if you are going for a bit more of an undercut, you can push that little bit more now. heading to the end of the stint. And if you're staying out for another couple of laps, then you can kind of preserve the tyres a little bit more. But let's see if anybody chooses to go into the pits this lap around. So none of our top guys, but we do see Diego Zorzo head into the pits. And one thing that the drivers have to be wary of around this circuit is not braking too late into the pit lane, because it's only 60 km/h around here. That's something that the drivers will know, but it is such a heavy stop as you head into the pits, as Booker T and Pepe Marti head into the pit lane side by side.
Oh, nice little squabbling there from the Williams and the Ferrari, as we now see everybody else come into pit lane. Crucially, Rapassa as well, as he tries the undercut on Steven Vasso. And it's an agonisingly long wait as well, isn't it, this pit lane? With just how slow you go and how long it is. Yes, you cut off the final corner, but it is still an eternity to get down, as you see Zorzo and Rapassa now coming out of pit lane. It's one of the more just detrimental pit lanes when it comes to the undercut or overcut, and you can just find so much time on your competitors if you're able to get that undercut done nicely, as Rapassa's 1.5 seconds off Zorzo, so won't have the DRS. But crucially for the Mercedes as well, he was getting close to the back of Joel Marquardt, so we could see him potentially jump up into the top 5, if not the top 4, and potentially getting Larry Torquay as well.
Indeed, and around here you can lose up to 26, 27 seconds in the pit lane, and that is really, really, not good for your race. Hence why it's a track we don't often see the the two-stop at, because some tracks you can be in the pits for 18 seconds. When you've added another 8 seconds on top of it, it means that a two-stop is never really viable in this Grand Prix, as we do see Joel Marquardt heading to the pits along with Ryan Modler, of course, the only person that can fight with Luca Rapassa in the championship, as we also see Lucas Baesner as well heading to the pit lane. So our top 3 all stay out, but a few more cars have headed into the pits, and we'll see whereabouts Joel Marquardt comes out compared to Luca Rapassa, as those two were quite close before the pit stop.
Yes, they certainly were, and of course we'll also see where Ryan Modler comes out in all of this too. You can see Marquardt now just trundling down the pit lane. Where is Zorzo at this current moment in time? He's just heading through turn 1. He's able to jump the V-Carb. What about Rapassa? He's able to jump the Ferrari and potentially get round the outside of Joel Marquardt. Late on the brakes he goes. Those warm, sticky, hard compound tyres compared to Marquardt's very cold tyres, working out perfectly there. Same with Keaton Lutt on Ryan Modler as well. So they still go side by side now for Aintree. Of course, DRS will be open heading down into Brooklyn. It's all going to be about who can get the better line. Will the McLaren just get boxed in by the V-Carb, or will it be Modler who's potentially boxed in slightly to the inside through Luffield? To be the outside for Brooklyn's inside for Luffield for Keaton Lutt. Is he going to be able to pull this one off? They're still side by side, and he's just able to streak clear of the Ferrari for now, but he's got to fight it back. Is Ryan Modler into Cop's corner? Slipstream effect going to be used from the V-Carb. Understeer as well off the road. Lovely stuff between the pair. Brilliant racing respect from both Lutt and Modler, but the Ferrari just has to give way through Maggots, Beckett's and Chappell, and Keaton Lutt has just got the upper hand in that one, and crucially as well for Rapassa, he's got 2 cars in between himself and his championship rival, as Roberts and co are into pit lane now.
Indeed, a brilliant move there, as we do see Joel Marquardt go up the inside of Luca Rapassa, as they now try and close in and work together to bring that gap down to Diego Zorzo, who of course went on that early undercut, and it really has worked out for him well, as he now gets 2 seconds ahead of Joel Marquardt, as we do see 4 more cars enter the pits. Our top 3, Roberts, Bruffair and Bakar, and then also Tamas Kokeny as well into the pit lane. So we'll see whereabouts they come out, and Tom Roberts comes out in second place just behind the back of Diego Zorzo, as Bruffair comes out also just ahead of Joel Marquardt, and then Ryan Bakar, look at that, only was, 1 position behind Bruffair, but has came out 4 positions back, and that's crucial in a race like this, where 4 positions is the difference between P3 and P7.
It certainly is, and that now could potentially just spark the end of his podium charge for Ryan Bakar. And it really just shows how crucial timing your pit stops are. And the likes of Torquay, Vasso, they could see themselves down below the likes of Esti at this rate when they come into pit lane, just because of how crucial that undercut is. But of course, they will have that tyre age deficit, and come the end of the race, they could see themselves fly up to the back and potentially carve their way through this field. But of course, with everybody having DRS, it just makes things a little bit harder. But it's been a nice stop there from Diego Zorzo as Torquay speeds into pit lane. That's disastrous for him. I was just about to mention how this has been a brilliant stint from Zorzo on that undercut to be able to move himself up into that net race lead. Of course, was lying in 6th place. Now in that net race lead, did everything he needed to do. And he's really going to be the one that's gained the most out of this pit stop window.
Indeed, and of course a big shame there for Torquay, who will probably drop outside of the points completely. I can't see him scoring any points tonight. Big shame there for Torquay with that penalty. But we continue our way on, and it is a Mercedes 1-3 currently, so they're doing a brilliant job up at the top end of things, as of course we do have only 2 cars with a penalty, that being Larry Torquay and Pepe Marti. As we continue our way on, and we have seen Valentin Bruffaert has been quite close to the back of Tom Roberts, has been looking to make a move on a couple of occasions, but just can't quite close up enough. So keep an eye on Bruffaert, because he is looking to make some moves here, I think.
I think he is, and he's seeming a bit different to how he was in that opening stint, seeming to be that little bit more racy, and just really wants to cling onto the back of the Alpine. Of course, it's a brilliant outing so far for Mercedes, a 1-3 as it currently stands. And for Diego Zorzo as well, he's looking to go back-to-back in the race victories. The only driver that has gone back-to-back so far this season is Luca Rapassa at Spain and Belgium, rounds 2 and rounds 3. And of course, for Diego Zorzo, last time out was his first race since that Spanish Grand Prix. And he's looking to try and pick up another 25 more points and see himself move up into the top 4 in the top 5 in the standings. As Bruffaert just not going to be close enough for the move. I think everybody's just going to play it safe into Vale. I say that Bakar jinks out to the inside line, but does not go for the move. But now, once again, we're going to be in that DRS train here, Nathan. It's all going to be about waiting until those final few laps.
It certainly will be, as Larry Torquay, despite having a penalty, still on a charge here as things continue on. And Ryan Bakar as well to the inside of Keaton Lutt into turn 3. A bit of contact between the two. And then Keaton Lutt has the inside line in towards turn 4 at the loop and Aintree. And then through in towards turn 5 we go. And can Keaton Lutt get ahead, stay ahead of Ryan Bakar as they go side by side, heading down towards Brooklands corner, and I think Bakar's going to be an edge ahead for a moment as they make their way through the inside line. A slight bit of contact there between the two cars on their tyres, but Ryan Bakar does get ahead and moves up into P6 now, and his next challenge will be to get ahead of Luca Rapassa.
Yes, it certainly will be, as this has now put Keaton Lutt under pressure from Ryan Modler, who sweeps round the outside through Cos, but runs wide, and that's allowed the McLaren just to get the momentum back into his hands and move straight back into that 7th place. But that would have been a beautiful move from Ryan Modler, and a real repeat of what we saw only a few laps ago between these two, and that's now put Modler under all sorts of pressure from Larry Torquay behind, and we could see the Haas driver now try and capitalise on this, but Modler is now going to be attacking Keaton Lutt as we head up into Stowe Corner, looking to the outside, tried finding the inside, had to dart to the outside, and Torquay will still look to the inside line of both the Ferrari and the McLaren potentially. No, Modler to the outside of Keaton Lutt, swoops round the outside through Vale. Lovely stuff from Modler, but Lutt was able to get the up and under out of the corner, and unfortunately just wasn't able to get close enough for a move there into Club Corner. But as we now head down the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight through Abbey and now into Village Corner, is Lutt going to be able to hold this one round the outside, but the inside for the loop. This is brilliant racing between the Ferrari and the McLaren. Torquay will be wanting to pick up any scraps he possibly can. He tries to get the exit against a pair of them, not able to do so just yet, as they're now using DRS down the Wellington straight to see who will come out on top. It will be Modler on the outside, Lutt on the inside, and the Ferrari will just want to hold this one into. Luffield does get that move done, and now Larry Torquay will want to try and get past that McLaren as soon as he possibly can.
Certainly a brilliant move there by Ryan Modler, as Larry to the inside of Keaton Lutt does go ahead into 8th place, and Keaton will try and hang it around the outside, but nowhere near enough grip to do so, so he drops down to 9th place, and Larry is on the charge. But of course that was a much needed move there for Ryan Modler in his chance to try and stay in that championship. As it currently stands, he would do, as Luca Rapassa won't be outscoring him by 14 points. So still things on the cards here for Ryan Modler, as Tom Roberts and Diego Zorzo have a battle for the lead of the Grand Prix. And Tom Roberts goes into the front once again, as we do see further back there, Stephen Vasso ahead of Pepe Marti for 11th.
Yeah, nice stuff there from Vasso and also from Tom Roberts. The two Alpines starting to make their way up through the field. And of course for Tom Roberts, he now hits the front of the field. And that's now put Valentin Bruffa all over the back of Diego Zorzo, his teammate. But I don't think there's going to be too much squabbling there. As Zorzo, is he going to look for it into Village? No, he's just going to sit behind for now. But talking about going for the move, it's Ryan Bakar against championship leader Luca Rapassa. Of course, Rapassa's on 119 points. And Bakar has only got the 1 to his nose. This would be a brilliant result for him if he can get up into that top 5. And now the two Mercedes seeming to be squabbling as well at the front of the field. They're going side by side through now into Brooklands and Lutfield. Where have we seen this before in real life F1? But it just seems that Diego Zorzo has just been able to hold on to that position. But they don't want to squabble too much here, Nathan, because they'll allow Tom Roberts to just shoot off into the distance.
It certainly will, as they continue their way on, and Valentin Bruffa, I think, would have gone for the move into Cops, but wasn't quite close enough, and he's burning battery here in towards Maggots and Beckett's, but yet again, not quite close enough once more as Booker T is rounding his out of the race, and is that going to be a safety car? I think it's going to be a VSC, yeah, only, well, that's a surprise. I would have hoped it would have been an actual safety car.
Ah, that's so unfortunate there for Booker T. Just guess he couldn't dig it, sucker, and unfortunately, has seen
digging
himself.
His own grave.
Yes, he's dug his own grave there, has Booker T. And I have a feeling he just got a little bit infuriated and straight-lined Cop's corner. Just a guess there, or at some contact, because that's a very unusual place to go off and hit the wall.
Yeah, I've got to say so, but it could have also been the fact he got tapped heading into Cops and it shot his car out a little bit like what happened to Max Verstappen a couple of seasons ago. But we continue on. Green flag racing here around Silverstone, and a brilliant start from Diego Zorzo. Looks to go up into the lead of the Grand Prix as Tom Roberts goes back to the inside, and this allows an opportunity for Valentin Bruffa to go up the inside of the other Mercedes. Through turn 5 they go. Nearly a slight bit of contact there between the two as we make our way in towards Brooklands corner. And you can see there's Zorzo on the inside of Roberts, looking to get ahead. There's a slight tap there from Bruffa, who moves to the outside, trying to get ahead, but can't quite do so, as we do see further back there Ryan Modler looking to battle here with Larry Tulkey as they go side by side, and Tulkey is going to be on the outside, heading in towards Cops corner, and Bruffa was for a moment looking for a move into Cops.
Oh, that's so close between the two silver arrows. As there is Tulkey around the outside of Modler, goes off the road. Surely that'll be an illegal overtake for the Haas driver, and yes, just has to slot back in behind the Ferrari. And of course, Modler doesn't want to lose too many positions. Yes, of course, Tulkey's got that 10-second time penalty, but that'll then leave him straight into the clutches of the McLaren of Keaton Lutz. That's a big slide there for Pepe Marti, who's just been able to hang on to the car as Lucas Basner is going for the move there on Keaton Lutz. Is he going to be able to get that move done? It's Larry Tulkey now side by side with Modler for that 7th place. He swoops it round the outside late on the brakes as Vasso now gets past 2 cars into the Vale chicane. A beautiful move from the Ukrainian, who just swooped right round the outside of not only Basler trying to attack Keaton Lutz, but also Lutz himself as well. That was superb and really opportunistic from Vasso, who's now going around the outside of Modler as well.
Indeed, brilliant so far here by Stephen Vasso as Ryan Bakar gets ahead of Luca Rapassa. There's contact between the two as they head in towards Aintree. Bakar's ahead of Rapassa. Rapassa's on the outside line, nearly touching the grass. As we head down towards Brooklands corner, a bit more contact between the two. Who will emerge in 5th place? It seems like it will be Ryan Bakar into 5th for the Kick Sauber. And now Larry Torquay will be having his turn to try and get past Luca Rapassa. Probably a little bit too overzealous by Ryan Bakar. But if you want to be getting ahead of championship leaders, you've got to be making moves like that. And into 5th place goes Ryan, who, of course, before this has only scored a P10 on one occasion. They're looking to try and get a top 5, which will be brilliant and will actually be 10 times the points he scored in the first 7 rounds.
It certainly would. So it's been an absolutely monumental British Grand Prix here for Ryan Bakar, and he's done really well in this race, and that was a boisterous move to get past Luca Rapassa, and you need to make moves like that if you want any chance of scoring points here in WR PC Tier 2. It was hard but fair racing as we actually see Daniel Gottschalk make a mistake coming out of Stowe Corner. Potentially just got a little bit of a half slide, was able to collect the car and stay within DRS range of Tamas Kokeni. So lucky enough for him. He's still within contention as Larry Chalky is getting closer to the back of Luca Rapassa, and the championship leader might now see himself falling further and further backwards. And behind Chalky is his rival of Ryan Modler. He'll want to finish ahead of him, but this is super close racing. It's already been kicking off in this mid-stage of the race.
It certainly has, and a little bit of battling further back as well, as we head our way back down towards Brooklyn's corner, as Daniel Gottschalk looking to try and get ahead of Matthias van Erven in towards Brooklands, and Daniel Gottschalk does go ahead and moves up into 16th place as they will make their way through. But looking back up near the front, and we do see Brufair looking to close in on Diego Zorzo, but not quite close enough heading into Cop's corner, so we'll have to stick back once again unless he can get an opportunity in towards Maggots and Beckett's, but once again a little bit too far back, so no move being made on that occasion. But you can see Brufair's keen to jump up into second. He just can never get alongside in a corner where you're meant to overtake. He can catch up heading in towards Cops, but he needs to be doing that heading into Stowe possibly, or even in towards turn 3 at Village.
Yeah, he certainly does. So for Brufair, he's got the pace, just not at the right points of the circuit and where he needs it. So as we head into the Vale chicane for the 18th time in this Grand Prix, Zorzo also needs to watch out of Tom Roberts breaking his DRS, because that gap is 7/10 of a second. All it takes is one good couple of corners, and Tom Roberts will see himself that 1 second clear of Diego Zorzo, and that will be crucial for this race. And if the race win is going to be fought to the death on that final lap, as we see as well, Laurie Chalky still hunting all over the back of Luca Rapassa. Of course, DRS will be now opening down the Wellington Straight. And are we going to see any moves be made into Brooklands? It doesn't seem like it thus far. And no, Chalky just a little bit too far back from Rapassa, but a move could certainly be on into Cop's corner, as also Modler under pressure from Vasso.
Certainly is Stephen Vasso, of course, on the best tyres out of everybody, apart from Ryan Grubb, Daniel Gottschalk and Matthias van Erven. And being as he's up in ninth, this is a really good opportunity for Stephen Vasso to make some more positions, and goes in nicely on the back of Modler, but not able to make a move this time around as we continue our way through in towards Maggots and Beckett's once again. And then looking further at the front, Brufair once again right on the back of Diego Zorzo as we head our way down towards Stowe Corner. And of course, shortly onto lap 20 of 26, there'll be 6 to go next time around. And Tom Roberts has done a pretty perfect job all race long so far, but of course, once we get onto those final couple of laps, that's when Diego Zorzo and Brufair will push more than they have already. So, certainly not over at all for Tom Roberts, even though it seems like he's cruising up ahead.
Yeah, it's certainly not, and Diego Zorzo will start applying that pressure. You can see that gap now 4/10 a second, has found 3/10 in the final lap, and that's Matthias van Erven off and into the wall at the final corner, and it's another virtual safety car. Oh, things nearly got very spicy there. If there was a safety car, everyone would have darted into pit lane, and that would have not helped Valentin Brufair at all. But a virtual safety car is out once more. The Deltas will now play a huge factor, and will Roberts be able to potentially extend that lead ever so slightly if he times things right?
Well, he just binned it on purpose, so we should have a safety car for that one, I think.
No.
I mean, I don't really like that, to be fair. I think that's a little bit silly, certainly.
No, that's not very good there from Matthias van Erven. If you're going to retire, do it in the pit lane. Do not do it on the circuit. And try and potentially fabricate a safety car. Because, of course, Pepe Marti, even with that 3-second time penalty, is in 12th place. So points could have certainly been on the cards if one did come out. But DRS is now enabled. The virtual safety car has been called off. And it's been a dream restart there from Tom Roberts. Has gapped Diego Zorzo ever so slightly. Was 2 temps as it got called out. And now Zorzo about half a second behind. Valentin Brufair not going to be able to get close enough for a move. Tulkey as we head into Stowe Corner. Once again, just trying to look for something against the Red Bull of Rapassa. Just not going to be close enough into the Vale chicane. But I think if anyone's going to make the moves, it's going to be Tulkey and Vasso at this stage of the race.
Certainly will be as we continue our way on. 5 laps to go now for the British Grand Prix, and the two Mercedes closer than they have been all races. Now Brufair's looking to get on the attack, looking to move ahead of Diego Zorzo. Go to the inside, taps the back of the Mercedes as they head into turn number 3. And that nearly ended badly there for Diego Zorzo and for Valentin, but they do make it through unscathed. In towards Aintree they go, and yet again a slight bit of contact, and both costing them time, but luckily within a second still of Tom Roberts as they make their way into Brooklyn's corner. Further back as well, Rapasa looking to make a charge onto the back of Ryan Bakar as we head through in towards Woodcut very shortly. Oh, and a bit of a tap there from Rapasa onto the back of Ryan Bakar as well. That's certainly going to cost him time, and here comes Valentin Brufair.
Yeah, Valentin Brufair still looking for that move, just not close enough just yet. Also, further back, Vaso is really close to the back of Ryan Modler too, as we now head into Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel once more. But the Brufair just seems to be that quicker driver. I'm surprised the Mercedes aren't swapping round here to potentially allow Brufair to try and attack on Tom Roberts. But Diego's also just holding firm in that second place, and it could have been absolute calamities in the Mercedes garage if they did come to blows and it saw them both tumbling down the order or potentially damage to either one of the cars. But Tom Roberts still holds on to that race lead. There was a move further back there. Was that Stephen Vaso to the inside? No, it's Laurie Tulkey, sorry, to the inside of Luca Rapasa. Was going to get that move done, and now Stephen Vaso with a poor run out of Vale has just allowed Lucas Baisner all over to the back of him, and looking that to the inside goes Lucas Baisner through Abbey, and he's got that move done nicely. Will Vaso fight back low? No, he will not, as there's luck to the inside of the Alpine. The McLaren now moves himself up into that top 10, and we were talking about the Ukrainian making moves. He's just seen himself fall back down through the field, and Bakar's just got past Joel Marquardt as well.
Indeed, and it was a bit of damage there for, unfortunately there, for Stephen Vaso, as Joel Marquardt looking to still try and get that move done, but can't do so. What happened was, Ryan Modler went to the inside of Larry Tolkey, had a bit of a snap. Then, because of that, when Vaso went around the outside, unfortunately, his front wing clipped Ryan Modler's rear tyre, and unfortunately gave him some damage, and that's why he's dropped back to P11 here in this race. A big, big shame there for Stephen Vaso, who was on a charge, on for some very decent points, we have to say, as we continue our way on, and just watching here with Luca Rapasa on the back of Joel Marquardt. P6 currently, of course. Joel was looking for an opportunity ahead of Ryan, but of course that nearly cost him the position to Luca Rapasa, who has, well, seemed to be going a little bit slow earlier on, but has picked the pace up over these past couple of laps. So would it be a bit of a late resurgence here for Rapasa to jump up into the top 5? But as things stand, he won't take the championship away this evening.
No, he certainly won't, as it currently stands. But he's only 2 points away, 2 positions away from 4th place. That'll give him 12 points. Of course, needs to be on the podium this evening if he wants to win the title, and for Ryan Modler to be a bit lower than he currently is if he does finish in that 3rd place. And as we now see Rapasa lining up that move on Joel Marquardt into the loop, just wasn't able to go for it as Marquardt defended that one nicely, saw exactly what the Red Bull wanted to do and did not allow it to happen as we now head down into Brooklyn's. Not going to be close enough there, but Ryan Modler could be close enough for the move on Larry Tulkey, and he is close enough as he heads around the outside. I think Tulkey might have a little bit of damage at this stage. Seemed to have a lot of understeer through Brooklands and a bit of locking up as well. So for the Haas driver, he might have also came into strife there in that incident with Modler and Vaso. And unfortunately for him, he might now see himself, of course, already with that 10-second penalty, tumble out the points confirmed before the end of this race.
Certainly, and that would also not be ideal for Larry Tulkey at the moment. Would finish P15, I think. A given P15. Big, big shame for him as that there is damage on the back of, on the front of his wing on the right-hand side. There we go, I'll get my words out. Not good at all for Larry Tulkey as we look further ahead. And once again, the two Mercedes getting closer and closer, but still no move on the cards as we head down towards Velchicane. It will be lap 24 now, and Tom Roberts does lead the way as we head our way through the final corner. Of course, the Alpine doing a brilliant job so far this evening, and now Zorzo and Brufair looking to finish off the podium in the Mercedes as we continue on. And of course, Luca Rapasa, I think, will be quite happy with P6 here because it's not the best result, but it's certainly not the worst.
No, it's certainly not, and it's still points over Ryan Modler behind. Of course, we'll be scoring 8 points to Modler's 6, so it's still a good chunk of points in his hands. And that's 2 more points, so that will take the total up to 63. And really give him that one hand on the trophy. We'll need an absolutely disastrous race in Imola to really take this on to Japan. And for Luca Rapassa, unfortunately, though, I think some good things might also have to come to the end, in the fact that he's 100% podium streak here in Silverstone might just fade out. Of course, still 3 laps to go, anything can happen, but we'll need an absolute miracle if he wants to get onto that podium for what would be a 7th time this season. And that streak seeming like it's going to come to an end at this rate. But he's been so far so good in this race, and he's doing exactly what he needs to. I don't think he's really caring at this point about that streak, as Basner is actually able to get past Larry Tulke for that 8th place.
Certainly is, as we continue our way on. Of course, heading on to the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. And Tom Roberts looking to go for a last-ditch effort to eliminate Diego Zorzo in terms of DRS as we head through into turn 1 and 2. The gap's at 8.5 tenths, but I think, yeah, it should be easy now for Diego Zorzo to stick within that DRS as we head our way through in towards turns 4 and 5. And of course, Diego Zorzo, you can see, yeah, we'll still get some DRS heading down towards Brooklands, as what's happened at turn 1. JSD, I think, has taken a puncture, unfortunately.
Oh, that's really unfortunate for JSD. Tried that rogue strategy. We did say his tyres might struggle come the end of this race, and they certainly have. On the penultimate lap, a puncture has come his way, as you can see him sliding across the road. As further up we have Pepe Marti versus Ryan Grob, and some contact between the pair. Marti sent into a half slide, somehow has been able to hold on to the car, and now Tamas Kokeni separates the pair. A little bit of a referee in the middle of them two. But heading into Luffield, Grob just tagging the back of Pepe Marti, sending the Williams into a half spin.
Certainly, and of course a big shame here for JSD, who's going to try and get it back to the pits as they've got 2 punctures on his car. He's got front left and rear left puncture for JSD, and I don't think the car can turn, so I think that will have to be a retire on track here. Big shame for JSD, who went for that risk and just couldn't quite make it pay off. But of course, as we look back at the front, Tom Roberts with an 8/10 gap over Diego Zorzo onto the final lap of this race. It's all down to Tom Roberts now to keep that lead ahead of Zorzo. Well, I mean, as things go, and the way the pace has been so far, it's going to be a task for anyone to get ahead of Tom Roberts. His pace has been absolutely electric.
It certainly has been, and as well, it's only a 3-horse race at the front of the field. Something drastic has happened to Ryan Bakar over these last few laps. That gave him 3.7 seconds, and he's now going to be in a squabble not only with Joel Marquardt, but Luca Rapassa as well. So I think we might have to change our attention down there for the Wellington Straight. This is over 4th place in the Grand Prix, and you see Marquardt darting to the inside lines. He's going to get the move done into Brooklands. Also needs to look out from Luca Rapassa, especially now to the outside through Luffield. And of course, Rapassa has to keep looking in his mirrors for Ryan Modler as well. Of course, would not want his championship rival to outscore him, even if it is 2 points, and he does have one hand on that trophy. You still want to stay ahead of your rival, and Ryan Modler could be looking to the inside now into Kopp's corner. No, he does not. It stays as it is through turn 9, and now into Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. I don't think there's going to be any moves at the front of the field. Tom Roberts just seems to have the legs over Diego Zorzo, but this is it now for P4 in this race, and Marquardt has dropped off the back of Bakar. So are we going to see now a move from Luca Rapassa to get him into 5th place and score a few more points over Modler? No, just not going to be close enough. But at the front of the field, it's been sheer domination from this man. He took pole position when he needed to. Under pressure, it was 1 lap and done. Here for the 26 laps, he's dominated his home race. It's Tom Roberts who wins here in Silverstone. A brilliant drive from the Brit as he sees himself top the standings here in both qualifying and the race. And Joel Marquardt wasn't able to get past Ryan Bakar, and Marassa wasn't able to make it through either. But a delightful result as well here, Nathan, for Ryan Bakar, who scored a point all season long, has now just times that by 12 in his overall championship standings.
Indeed, brilliant job by Ryan Bakar there to finish in P4, of course. The 2 Mercedes as well, both in the top 3, brilliant for their Constructors' Championship. Not that the drivers care about it, but it's still good for them either way, as we do finally get Pepe Marti to head across the line and take that P15 on the wet tyres. There we go. It's been an interesting race, I've got to say. A little bit boring at times, but there was always some battling to keep us on the edge of our seats. That's safe to say, as I'm looking in the chat there, a couple of drivers giving the GGs to each other, which is always nice to see.
It certainly is nice to see the drivers just happy with the battles that were at hand, and it was a good race. It may have been a bit of a slow burner at times, but for, of course, Tom Roberts, he just took that lead, especially on that second stint. Once he got it past on Zorzo, just never looked back. And he hits a little gritty on the podium as well, just for good measure on the rest of the field. But your order is as follows for this evening's Grand Prix. Of course, some positions may be provisional, but there wasn't really too many controversial moments in that one. But it's Tom Roberts who took the pole and the race victory domination from him here in Silverstone at his home Grand Prix. It's also in second, Valentin Bruffaert in third, rounding out a double Mercedes podium. Ryan Bakar with his best result of the season and timesing his overall tally by 12 with fourth. John Marquardt fifth. Rapace will be happy with sixth in front of Modler, but his 100% streak goes away. Baisner eighth. Then it's Lutz Vasso who rounds out your top 10 and just grabs a point with that damage. Grob, Kokeni, Tulki, Gottschalk, Pepe, Marti. Then your non-finishers were Van Erven, Booker T, and then I can't remember who else. I think it was Jontos and also Steg, and then of course JSC got disqualified with that puncture. But now as we head back over to Ryan and Nathan's glorious faces, that was a very interesting one, and I hope we can get some interviews from some of the drivers.
We do. We have Diego and Tom Robertson. We'll drag both of them in quickly. First of all, we'll speak to you, Diego. Of course, P2 in that race. A very good defence in the end against Valentin Bruffaert. And of course, with a driver of his stature, definitely not an easy defence for yourself. But in the end, it paid off and you'll be able to take a P2 home. Of course, we saw JSD take a puncture on his 18-lap old tyres. How far away were you from taking a puncture?
Not at all. I was already in puncture territory. So, yeah, it was hard to manage because, as you said, I had Valentin on my back for like 15 laps in a row. But yeah, I did my best and luckily I didn't have a puncture.
Indeed. And of course, heading into the race as well, just want to clear it up. Was there any word of rain or was that made up by people in the chat earlier?
No, I mean, in quali you could see it could rain in the race, but the game was just wrong. Yeah, it's always so confusing, you don't know, but telemetry said it wouldn't rain, so I just trusted that.
Indeed. And of course, over the course of the season, you've only been here for 3 races. You took a win last time out in Azerbaijan, and then of course, no points in the first couple of races. You think if you was here for the full season, you'd be in that championship fight? Because, I mean, ahead of you, there's only around, I think, 30 points up to P2.
Yeah, I definitely would be because, well, Australia, I just had an incident in the last corner and I would have been P1, P2, and I DNF'd.
Oh, is that? Yes, that one.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Then second race, I just spun in the pit lane and Luca, who was behind me, won the race. So there was other 25 points gone, and then I just went on holiday. So, I mean, I would have loved to battle with Luca for the championship, but it's what it is. He's just driven a perfect season so far, and he deserves the title. Even if, well, I mean, he will win it. This race, next race, he will.
Indeed. But anyway, congratulations on the P2, Diego. Anything from you, Max?
Of course, yeah, one from me, Diego. Of course, congratulations on your podium. Of course, we head to Imola next time out. How are you feeling around there? A bit of a different circuit to Silverstone. Are you confident? And will you be racing also?
No and yes. I'm not confident. I haven't done it in like months. Not this game actually. But I will be racing, of course. I'll try to get that P2 in the championship. I'll do my best, as always. This wasn't a good track for me, and Imola is probably even worse. But I'll do my best, as always.
Yeah, well, of course, congratulations on that second place, and go enjoy your evening. You never know, maybe next week might be a third place finish to go 1, 2, 3 in the past 3 races in the podiums.
Hopefully. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
And next, we'll speak to Tom Roberts. Tom, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Perfect. So, great win. I mean, that was quite controlled all the way to the end. Of course, first of all, qualifying. Did you expect to put a point out for a banker?
Yes and no. Like, a 0.8's not the strongest of laps. I'm surprised it was pole, but I guess because we knew that I'd be the only lap. The pressure was on for everyone, so somehow I fumbled the least, I guess. Even though I got some shaky legs in the last corner and did a pretty awful last sector, but very happy to get pole. Unusual for me.
Indeed, and then of course into the race it just followed through quite perfectly. Of course, you led pretty much every lap that you was, on that net lead position, and well, you didn't really have much of an attack from Diego towards the end. Was that just due to your overall pace, or was it more something to do with, possibly that ERS management heading into that final lap?
Not so much the ERS management, but more so the strategy. He had 2 lap older tyres that were about to puncture. I had saved my tyres the whole stint, and I'd barely hit 60% on the last lap, so I could just full send the last 4 laps. And Silverstone's pretty hard to stay close in Maggots Beckett, so especially against the guy in older tyres, I was pretty confident I could stay in front. I did keep Diego. I think he was saving, so he could have stayed in either way, but I kept him in DRS so that Valentin wouldn't sort of have more of an equal fight against me.
Indeed, and of course, heading into the pit stops as well, was it always that plan to go an extra couple of laps longer? Because obviously we know around tracks like, Silverstone, the undercut can work heavily. Was it always a risk going a lap or two longer just to get that better tyre wear at the end?
Yeah, it was definitely a risk, because if I was the only one to stay out, being in the lead, I kind of just had to guess the strategy. Because if everyone pits behind me and I get undercut by 3 or 4 cars, there's not really much I can do from there. So I'm happy that Valentin and a couple of others in the top 4 stayed out. So I knew I could come out in either P1 or P2 behind Diego, which was a very strong position to come out of the pits on.
Indeed, a very good job indeed by yourself. Of course, big congratulations on the P1. Anything from you, Max?
Yes, one from me. It's going to be the exact same what I asked Diego, Tom, of course. We head over to Imola. Of course, congratulations on the race victory. And after coming off the race victory in your home, in your back garden, pretty much at Silverstone, do you want to? How are you feeling going into Imola? You think you can make it back-to-back race victories, or is it just a little bit off the cards around there?
It's never off the cards. There's Imola's quite. I'd say it's one of the easier tracks to overtake somehow, because there's more sort of slow speed corners combined together. But I think this race had a bit more prep than usual, because I did a different league on Saturday, which I won't have next week. So maybe not looking towards a race win, but definitely aiming for a podium.
Well, let's hope you do get that podium and we see you here this time next week. But yeah, congratulations on the race win, mate, and go and enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
Right then, Nathan, that is going to for the interviews, and yeah, some nice words from the top 2 there, and yeah, I think Tom Roach just played his cards right at that race, and he just was able to keep Zorzov in DRS and manage his tyres at the same time. It just worked out beautifully for him.
Yeah, indeed. Great to have our top 2 in the chat and have a nice good old chat with them. And of course, heading into the final couple of rounds, whether I'll be here or not in the commentary box, we'll see. If not, I'll probably be watching anyway, because it's always nice to see some of the Tier 2 action. But of course, Imola will be an interesting one next time round. As Thomas says, you can, overtake there, but the issue is track limits a lot around Imola. Very easy to run wide, and in the past, we've seen sort of glitches with the track limits. I don't know if that exists now in F1 25, but in the past, you can get track limits for not even going off the track. So hopefully those issues are solved. And if they are, still going to be a very, very treacherous evening for our drivers, especially if we get rain.
It certainly will be, and of course a hotspot will be that Variante Alta at the top of the hill, where you're on the edge already, cutting across that chicane, and all it takes is just a little bit of an early turn in, or just a little bit too hot on the brakes, and you see yourself picking up those warnings, or even running wide at the end of it. So it certainly is a circuit where you're on the knife's edge when it comes to track limits. And also just limits of tarmac as well. It's gravel and grass all around you. If you run that little bit wide, you could see yourself get overtaken at any point in the circuit.
Yeah, certainly. So it will definitely be an interesting evening, but there's nothing else left for me to say.
No, yeah, we'll quickly run you through your for the rest of the season. Of course, only 3 more rounds to go. Of course, we've already mentioned it is at Imola for round 8. Then we head over to Suzuka for round 9, and then Abu Dhabi to end off the season. Of course, next time out, it really is the greatest opportunity for Luca Rapassa to come out in the drivers' standings and clinch that championship. Wasn't able to do it, unfortunately, this evening for him, but next week he really has the prime opportunity to do so. Hopefully it will be Corey back in the comms box. If not, it will be either Nathan or Joseph next time out. But that's going to be all from us here at WR for PC Tier 2. Make sure you join us at 8 PM next week for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix in Imola. Thank you all very much for watching. Your support is highly appreciated from both me, Nathan, and everybody at WR. Would not be possible without you guys to put these streams on. But that's going to be all. So thank you all very much for watching. Stay safe, stay well, and we shall see you in the next one. Goodbye.